Hey, what's up, my friend? So today we have Dinesh Dayani on the show. So Dinesh is a friend of mine and we actually served in the army together as commandos, right, in our younger days, right? So those are some crazy times with crazy stories that we'll talk about later. Today, Dinesh is the co-founder of DollarsAndSense, a leading personal financial website that helps people make better financial decisions. So in today's episode, we talk about what it's like serving as a commando in the army, the lessons that he had taken away from it. We talk about how DollarsAndSense got started and why it got started. He also shared with you, right, a high-level overview plus a tactical approach to SEO, right, which is pretty much how the website, the business gets traffic. Then he talks about how the business model works, right? Their future expansion plans, and much, much more. If that sounds something interesting to you, then guess what? Let's get started.
Welcome to Renatio's show. This is the podcast where I interview entrepreneurs and mavericks who get shit done.
So to kick things off, right, I would like to know what do you remember as some of your formative moments when you're younger?
Oh, how far back are we going?
Well, you can go as far back as maybe as you're a teenager or if you're in primary school, any significant thing that happened, yeah?
Okay, I think the first memory of money that I actually have in my head was when I was in primary school. So I remember that, I got my allowance. So my parents used to give me allowance for a day. I think I got $1 a day or something like that. And even back then, I was an avid saver. So I used to save up my money just so, maybe I could buy something at the end of the week or end of the month. So I used to save my money. And I remember one of the days, I brought like $5 or $10. I can't remember what it was. But back then, it was a big amount to me because I had been saving for a few weeks already. I had intention to buy a Tamiya car. I'm not sure whether your listeners will remember that, but I was saving towards that. So I had I think it was about $10 and I brought it to school. I think I had intention to maybe save up to $20 to make that purchase. And then I lost my wallet that day. And that was such a painful moment. And until today, I remember it. So I think that was my first memory of money.
I had something similar as well. I think I never shared it publicly, but I had, like you, I was I think ingrained since young because my parents were very frugal, save your money. So I don't like to keep my savings at home. It's all in my wallet. So at that point in time, I think it was primary 4, I had savings of maybe $50 or $60 all in my wallet. I took bus 40 home, right? Because I used to live in the East Coast area. Left my wallet on the bus with all my so-called life savings of a 10-year-old. Came down the bus. When I realized the wallet is not with me, chased after the bus, cried, and I never got back the wallet. And I'll never forget the incident at bus 40 where my so-called life savings were lost in that bus. So yeah, it was a very painful moment, so I can really relate and resonate with what you just said. So yeah. So that was your first experience with money.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that also made me realize the value of saving my money outside of my pockets or outside of my wallet, right? So I think right after that day, I guess I went home crying. I can't remember what happened, but probably I wasn't too happy about it and my parents realized. So I opened a bank account, I think right around then. And I always used to put my savings into the bank every week. I think back then they didn't really care. Or maybe for small kids, even today, they don't really care how much you put in.
The squirrel thingy, right?
Yeah.
USB.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they gave me $1 when I first started it up. So I used to put my money in the bank very regularly after that. I never used to carry a lot of money. I mean, even $5, $10 is big money to me, but not to the bank. But even then, they accepted it, I think.
Okay. So that actually led you to be more so-called careful with your money. You don't trust yourself, you trust the bank. You gotta put it there.
Yeah. It's not that I don't trust myself. I think you see the value in growing the stash and you see the value in putting it somewhere safe where it's not down to whether you lose it or your own mistake or someone else's mistake that you lose it. It's somewhere stay safe and you can see it growing there.
But prior to it, you say you're saving up for your first Tamiya car, but what led to you having that saving mindset even in the first place?
Interesting question. I think it's because my dad is a person who's very careful with money, right? So I think at home, a lot of the conversations, I remember he used to always have this, this was a long time ago, I don't know how old I was, probably before primary school. So he used to have a huge diary and he used to list down the expenses each month.
Wow, no way.
Yeah,
okay.
And how much was being spent on each line item. And I used to see him go through that with my mom and then see, okay, we are on track this month, or, we have surplus this month, or I don't think we have deficits before, but I think it was always surplus, and we try to have, or he tries to have surpluses. And I think seeing that interaction on a monthly basis, that's where maybe subconsciously it formed the values of, saving, having surpluses, making sure you don't spend more than you earn. I think those values were imparted.
That's fantastic. I think it's something that I rarely hear of these days. No, like nobody does it anymore. I don't even know of people doing it. I know my parents don't do it.
Yeah. I do it. I did it actually when I first started working, right? But I think when we started working, we have software and apps already.
Right.
So I used to religiously put in my expenses every day into the app. And at the end of the month, I see how much I spend, where I spend it. And then I realize, okay, I'm spending too much here, or too little here. I can afford to, spend a little bit more on entertainment or comfort, spend a little bit less on, maybe going out this month. So I used to do that religiously as well. And I think it's a subconscious thing. I didn't tell myself, hey, my dad used to do it, now I have to do it. But it's just very subconscious that I feel like, okay, I have to do this now as well. I don't do it today, just to clarify. I think I have a good sense of where my money is going. Not exactly, but I have a good sense of where it's going. So as long as I don't overspend in any category today, I'm pretty okay. But to form that sense, I think I used to do that.
I think that's a really good idea. I think it's something that I should have my wife implement. Yeah. And this reminds me of how our actions is actually having a big impact on the children, like, what your parents are doing, and now the impact is so obvious, right? So it leads me to think that I think instead of sometimes telling our children to behave in this way, sometimes I believe action is louder than words, right? So your actions will kind of like be what they take away rather than just your words. I think words is just 1 year in, 1 year out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, hearing myself say this, I have 2 young children as well today. So hearing myself say this, you're right, what I do, my interactions with money will be what they see and what they take away from it.
Exactly. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. So I also know that you are in Commandos, right? The reason I know is because both me and Dinesh, we serve in the same unit. So we know each other since way back. I think it's like more than 10 years already.
Yeah.
So I think for the listeners, I think many of them are thinking, what life is like, serving in the so-called harshest unit in Singapore. So maybe what are some of the biggest takeaways that you had, right, in the 2 years serving as a commando?
I think it's more closer to 20 years, right? I think when we went in. Now
closer to 20 years.
Yeah. Okay, so I think the biggest takeaways, I guess, the biggest one for me, I think today I can overcome any obstacle. I'm not faced when I hit difficulty. I know that, I can overcome it. It doesn't faze me. I know that, I just have to think about the way out. I just have to think about what I want to do, plan, and then execute. I'm not someone harped up on, that I can't do it. Let me stress over it. I think these are some things people maybe fear or worry, but I feel like if I face any obstacle, as long as I think about it, plan it, I can overcome it. I think that's what I've taken away from Commando. You can do it. And just to emphasize a little bit why is because, when I first went in, I couldn't do a single pull-up.
I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, I was a decent, okay runner, but I was not a very strong person. I couldn't do pull-up. I couldn't do many push-ups. And even mental resilience, maybe I wasn't there. I don't think I could have stayed outfield 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days. I don't know how we did it, but that wasn't the person I went into Commandos as. But the person I came out as, could do all of those things. Strength wasn't a problem. I mean, we trained every day, so strength wasn't a problem. We went outfield enough, so having that lack of comfort of being in a bunk or home even, that part sorted. You know you can do it. So having those luxuries or those comforts stripped away from you really gave me the thought that I can overcome it as long as I plan and do it.
What would you say is some of the most key moments for you in Commando that help shift your belief or your mindset?
Okay, on the first day itself, I think I didn't exactly want to be in Commandos. I think it was something that they tested us for. They gave us this aptitude test. I don't know if you remember, they gave us this aptitude test. I tried to do my best, and then I realized when at the end of it, they chat with us and they tell us, do you want to do it? I'm like, I'm not sure. I think that's what I told the person, I'm not sure. But anyway, I was drafted into it. So the first day was quite pivotal. I saw the people around me and I realized, hey, these are just ordinary people as well. You don't have to be extraordinary to be in the commandos, right? What you need is the training, the preparation, and these things probably matter a little bit more than who you are going in, right? I think it's being able to be that person going out. So I think the first day was quite pivotal. I saw people around me, some people were strong, but they couldn't run. Some people were not as slim, some people were short, right? So it's all shapes and sizes, there's no standard commando physique.
Yeah, that's one of the myth, right?
Yeah.
Remember there's a fat, tall, specky, no specky,
Correct.
muscle, no muscle.
Everyone, right? And then you realize you are just another one of them. You're just another one, right? And you can do it as well. So and seeing the instructors also, right? There were some of them who were shorter, some of them taller, some of them stronger, some leaner. You don't really see the muscles on them, but they're quite strong actually. So the first day was quite pivotal for me. And I think the next one was, when we went to airborne training, I've never thought of jumping out of an aeroplane. And even when I went in, I didn't think about jumping out of an aeroplane. But when you go for the airborne training, you realize, yes, I'm going to jump out of an aeroplane pretty soon, right? And the airborne training was pretty significant because it was something that was, I guess, something not many people experience, and something that, it was nice training for it and doing it as well. It gave me a life experience that I could share. I can share with people until today, right? What do you do in commandos? I think a lot of time people ask you, how was it when you jumped out of an aeroplane? I think that's the first thing people ask you. And I think the next most significant one was when we went to Brunei. That was, I think, honestly, one of the most challenging days of my life. I think that one day in the swamp. if you ask me the question of which was the most challenging day of my life, I think that day might come up. Yeah.
That would seem like the longest day, right?
Yeah. It was, I think we spent like barely 10 hours in the swamp, but it felt like a few days, and for people who don't go through it, I really don't know how to explain it to them, but it's not fun. If you stay too long in one place, you will literally sink. You weren't in my detachment, but at my detachment, someone was actually sinking in. I don't want to name him. But, we had to spend time in the first 5 minutes, spend time to pull him out. So we spent half an hour. The moment we went into the swamp, we spent the first half an hour trying to dig him out already.
Yeah. Maybe for some context, how tall are you, Dinesh?
I'm 182.
Okay, and when you go into the swamp, where was the mud level at your body?
Okay, at some points, not thick mud, but you just go through the water, right? The water. I don't know what you're stepping on, but you go through the water and it comes right up almost to your chest already.
Yeah, so imagine not everyone in Commandos is 1.82, some like maybe 1.7, 1.65. So that's why we were digging them out of the swamp.
And then not just water, right? Some parts of the swamp were actually felt a little bit like quicksand. Not so quick, but felt very like it could sink in. And someone actually did sink in. And then we had to dig him out, use our fingernails and everything. So that was another pivotal moment. I guess then when we came back, we realized that, it's time to receive our red beret. We had to walk the 72 km. I think that's another pivotal moment in the Commandos. I don't remember much from it. I know it was terribly difficult, more difficult than I actually realized, because we had done a lot of route march and walking. But the 72 km was on another level. I don't know how it was for you. I've never probably asked you as well.
I was bad at it. I was the last few to come in.
Yeah. But I remember after that, just looking at my feet, they were on each feet, there were 2 giant blisters at the front and at the back. There's 2 giant blisters on each feet, and every step felt like we were stepping on glass. And I guess to explain why we were able to do it, it fell down to the people around you. You see the people around, your friends, having spent over a year with them doing it, you want to do it with them. I remember someone who wasn't eligible to walk for the 72 km walking with us, just because he wanted to accompany his friends. And I think he thought that his friends would accompany him, but having realized how difficult it is, I think no one wanted to go through the experience twice. So that's how difficult it was. no one wants to go through that experience twice.
Yeah. And that guy walked total of 144. He did it twice.
Yeah.
And he's an NSF, by the way. He's not a regular. So,
Yeah.
mad respect.
Respect.
And come to think of it, actually, the first 1 year was a lot tougher than the second part of the year of training.
Yeah. I think, that's the main difference, right? Once you get your Red Beret, it felt like, the training wasn't as rigorous anymore, but you went outfield a lot more often after that.
Maybe those was like the first 1 year, you really reached the peak level of shit. Right? So the second year, I mean, still shit, but not as shitty as the first year things that you've done.
Yeah. So it was quite fun. I think it's quite fun looking back, but when you're in it,
it's not fun.
like you mentioned, right? You go through that shit. But looking back 20 years later today, it was fun, I think, and it formed some of the closest relationships or closest friendships that I have today, that I'm speaking to you today. And we meet up every few months or so.
Exactly.
Like for those listening, right? I meet up with Rainer and a few other commando guys every few months. It's a brilliant time. We are just transported back to the day we enlisted and we talked about anything. So it's very fun, and the friendships are forever.
True that. And you mentioned earlier that through commando training, things doesn't really so-called frighten you anymore because, after being through so much. So maybe, I don't know, what are some of the things that comes to mind that people around you are like kind of like panicking, but because having been through the commando training, you kind of realize, well, let's take it one step at a time. Anything that comes to mind?
I can't remember anything off the top of my head, but I think moments where, is challenging. Some of the things that I hear about, I'm not going to generalize to people, but I think some of the things that I do hear about is, whether people are ready to have kids. I think no one is ready to have kids. You just need a proper plan for it, know what you want to do, and you can do it. You don't have to be super rich. You don't have to have a lot of money. You just have to have a proper plan, and you can do it. If you hit a roadblock at work, all you have to do is just take a step back, see how you're going to resolve it, and then go forward. It's nothing phases you. So I don't worry about whether I can do it. I just do it to the best of my abilities. And I think the surprising thing is that every time you do something, you achieve a result. Whether it's good or bad, you achieve a result that resolves the old problem. And then you're always going to have a new problem. So if you don't do anything, you're still going to live with the old problem. But when you do something, you're either going to have, or you're always going to have a new problem. Right? So that's why I always believe that, you should always take action, and then you have a new problem to fix, because that's life.
Nice. And I know, right, after commando,
I think staying back in commandos, right, and you mentioned the second year was a bit easier, and that was also the time I started getting more interested in finance. And I'm not sure about you, but I saw you reading some finance books back in bunk as well. So we were a little bit more free in the second part of our commando lives. And then that gave us a little bit more time to think about what we were interested in also. So I used to do a media course actually in poly. So I studied media, I film, journalism. I studied all of those things. But I didn't want to continue studying that, or I didn't think I wanted to work in that sector. And the free time in the second half of my army stint or commando stint gave me that freedom. And I remember like looking at the Straits Times, I think it was the money section, the last page of the money section. They always, every day they tell you how much the SDI moved up and down. The previous day, SDI moved up and down. So that got me interested in like, what is this chart actually trying to tell me? And then I went, obviously we could use our phones. We couldn't use cameras back in camp, but we could use our phones, so we could start Googling things. And I think the internet had just come out on your phone back then. So it was quite rudimentary and you had to wait a long time. But I started learning a little bit more about, what is finance, stocks, bonds, what can I invest in? And that's where I really went down that rabbit hole of, hey, I don't know much about this topic, but it looks very interesting. I like money, I like saving money. So it just extended to like investing money, earning money then. And that's how I really got interested in personal finance or finance, right? And then actually after passing out of commandos, ORD, I went to study finance, econs and finance.
Yes, I know you studied. We studied, by the way, same uni as well.
Yeah.
But we both went to private uni. So what's your reason for going to private uni?
I think two main reasons. One is that my grades just weren't good enough to get to a local, I think one of the 3 local universities or 4 local universities. My grades just wasn't good enough. But I think even if my grades was good enough, I probably would not have the chance to study finance because I studied media, right? And I probably wouldn't have the chance to study finance. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't even do the research, but because I studied media and I'm going to finance, I'm not sure how it would have worked, but maybe I would have had to gone into private university anyway. But it was a fun time. I think I met a lot of friends in university as well. You were there. A few of other commando friends were there. Some of my secondary school friends were there as well. So I met like a whole different bunch of people during my university stint, and it was quite a nice experience as well. I think I can't compare it to what it would have been at a local university, but I don't have any regrets.
I think one thing to add is, just like Dinesh, I also went to private university because I think in Singapore context, if your grades are not good, that's the only hope/option that you have left, right? Not that we want to go there, but it's just by circumstance, we just only place that kind of accepts us.
Yeah, we could have gone to, or I could have gone to a overseas university, but I think cost-wise, it would have been a very different structure already. I think we ended up paying, I'm not 100% sure, you can clarify again for the listeners, but I think it was about 20-ish thousand a year.
That was what
I can't remember exactly, maybe 20 to 30,000 a year. I don't think there was any subsidies or anything because it's private anyway. But if you went overseas, obviously higher tuition fees, but also you have to account for accommodation, lodging, all the other things that come with it, not being with your family as well. And even cost-wise, I think it would have been at least double, triple easily.
From what I recall, I think it was about 25 to 30 for that full 3 years for my case. Yeah, that's what my dad, quote unquote, invested in me. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but when you, let's say, after uni, you go out to the working world, do you feel any differences, or maybe when it comes to hiring, people actually kind of favor private uni cert as secondary compared to the local uni? Was that your experience?
Okay, let me first share about getting my first and only job. So I went to the interview, and the hiring manager who was also the boss, and there were 3 bosses at that company, and they all sat in front of me, and it was my first time actually going for an interview, so it's quite daunting. They started asking me quite easy questions. I was quite surprised, it was easy questions. And I answered it, and at that time I had already started DollarsAndSense. But when I first started it anyway, it was just as a passion project, something me and my co-founder did. We didn't have an intention to turn it into a business or even try to earn money out of it. We just did it out of interest and passion. So when I went for the interview at my first job interview, they were asking me questions, and I had already in some ways prepared for it by working on DollarsAndSense, so I could answer a lot of the questions that they were asking. And at the end of it, I remembered the MD, the main boss making the decision. He said he didn't really hire fresh graduates. He didn't make the distinction of private or local. He said he didn't really hire fresh graduates, but he would call me back, or I don't know what the exact word he used, but he would call me back if I was selected. And I remember not having a great feeling because I thought, okay, maybe they won't hire me, because he did say that he don't really hire fresh grads. But the good thing is that he didn't make a distinction of, private or local. At that point, maybe I thought he wanted to shield me from the realities. But, I got the call very quickly after from their HR, and they wanted me to start almost immediately. So I was quite pleasantly surprised. And when I joined, a lot of the people in the team, the senior guys, said, they haven't really hired any fresh graduates. I was one of the first, or probably I was the first. I'm not 100% sure again. Probably I was the first fresh graduate that they hired. I stayed there over 4+ years, almost 5 years. And I think they were happy enough with my performance. And until today, I'm good friends with a lot of the senior guys that are still there after 10, 15 years. They're still there today. I also talked to my old boss. He's always lending his perspectives, always telling me, his thought processes, why he took a chance on me back then, even though he never hired a fresh graduate. So it's quite interesting first job that I had. Thankfully, it was the first and only job I had to interview for. I did go for other interviews. I got some offers as well. But around that time, I also was thinking about going to Dollars and Cents full time. So I didn't take up those offers, and I went to Dollars and Cents full time around 2016. Yeah, and then it became like a business after that.
Okay, so before we talk about the business side of things, right? So what were you doing back then as your first job?
I was in investor relations. So it was quite a interesting job because it marries both my skill sets, I feel. So I studied media and then I studied finance, and investor relations it requires both of these skill sets. Because in some ways it's a little bit like PR. So you have to write press releases, you have to write statements, you have to go through annual reports, you have to paint a nice picture of this company, projecting their messages in these documentations. And then on the other hand, who are you writing for? Target audience is, the finance community. So people who want to invest in them, shareholders, other stakeholders, like even if they're listed on SGX, so SGX, other exchanges, potential investors. So these are the audience. So it marries both skill sets. So you need the finance knowledge to understand, their annual reports, to understand, their financial statements, their top line, bottom line, and everything else in between. So you can paint a picture of, what this company really is doing. And it was a very fun job. I spent 4+ years, so I did enjoy it. And when it came time for me to go to Dollars and Cents, I'm glad that I went to start my own business rather than going to another firm or competing firm. I'm glad that I left that company to start something of my own.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing is you were in investors relations. So you're basically helping company crafts their pitch, is it?
Yeah.
Helping different companies craft their pitch.
Sometimes it's not just pitch. So it could be just press releases. So every time a company has, their final year or half year, they have to come up with a whole set of documentations because they are listed companies. And then part of this, they would try to put out a press release to kind of explain their financial performance. They would kind of come up with a PowerPoint presentation to show, their operational performance, explain the story of the company. So these are things that, we help them craft. Because companies, they do things very well. They're profitable, right? So they do things very well, but sometimes the internal operational team lack the ability to tell a story in the way people want to consume it. So they have a nice story, but they maybe just don't know how to tell it in a nice way. So that's our job then, come up with a 1-2 pager press release so the press understands. Ordinary investors like you and me maybe would understand without even knowing the company too in detail.
Do you think ChatGPT will do a good job now with summarizing those information for press release?
I think surely, right? Surely some of the work will be taken away by ChatGPT, but and maybe it's still because ChatGPT or these large language models is just beginning. I think you still need that human touch right now. I'm not sure how far it will advance, but right now I think you still need that human touch. And I think as human workers or human employees, we need to just stay ahead of the technology, right? So we need to make use of the technology so that we don't become redundant. I think throughout time, technology continues making people redundant, right? So as humans, we just have to stay one step ahead. And as long as we're able to do that, I think we'll be relevant in the workforce.
Yeah, that's why they have the saying of, it's not the strongest or fittest that survive, but the ones that can adapt, right? Adapt or die. Yeah, cliche, but damn true.
Yeah.
So now let's maybe take a pivot and we'll talk about, Dollars and Cents, right? So let's start, right? How did Dollars and Cents got started? You mentioned you were there full-time since 2016, but from what I know, it started way before that, yeah?
Yeah. I'm not sure if you remember, but I think we started right around the time we were going to graduate. And we graduated around 2012, so people can kind of calculate our age, knowing when we went army and all that already. We started around then, and it was just passion project, interest. We were learning. I think if you remember, we were learning a lot of the theories. The efficient market theory. How when you invest, stock prices are should be at the rate where the market prices them at that level already, taking into account all information. So the market's supposed to be efficient. But then stocks fluctuate so much, right? So surely there's some inefficiencies there. So I didn't understand all of those concepts, just theoretical. I understood what I was reading, or kind of understood what I was reading, but in practice, I didn't know how to buy a stock. Even if you understood or knew the volatility in stock market, you still don't know how to buy a stock because you have to open a brokerage account, you have to open your CDP account. I didn't even know all of these things existed back then when we were in school. So just going through the process, I realized I was learning a lot, and other people were also asking me those same questions. I think I was also asking people those questions. Other people also asking me the questions once they saw me doing it. So it was kind of information is being delivered based on experiences, and there wasn't an online source, and it was just strange because all the information were out there, but it was just very US centric or maybe outside of Singapore centric. You could understand it, but it wasn't catered to Singapore crowd yet. I think DollarsAndSense just tried to make it or make this personal finance information more available for the Singapore audience or Singapore context. I think that's how we started in 2012. And every time I remember our first few articles, they were just mainly things that we were personally interested in. So I didn't understand I remember one of the articles that I wrote, right? I didn't really understand the post-secondary school fund that we have, PSEA. Can't remember what it stands for right now. But the government used to fund your PSEA, and then I didn't understand how to use it, where did it go. Then I went through and found out. So yeah, actually, the fund starts off today in your baby bonus account, right? The CDA account. Then it goes into your, I think, EduSave. And then it goes into your PSEA, your post-secondary school fund, where you can fund your education. Then eventually it goes into your CPF at the end of the day. So I learned that, and then I also wrote about it. And I think people who read it finally realized also this is what happened to your money. They move from one account to another, but it's the same money is being channeled into different accounts throughout your life. So just small things like this, that I was interested in personally. Then I went online. Some of the information were there. Some of it I had to find out from other people as well by talking to them. Then I wrote it, and people resonated with it, and it gave me and my co-founder a lot of maybe heart, that people resonated with the story and we should do more of it. So we just continued doing more. And in school, it was good that, there were other people who were also studying finance. I think people like you also, you were studying finance. That's how we got some people to, if they were interested, contribute to the website as well. Because we didn't think about it as a business, I think we didn't have to convince these people to contribute or write with DollarsAndSense because we weren't monetizing it, we weren't getting any money out of it. So people who contributed to it didn't expect it as well. And I think a lot of people actually, now that I think back, a lot of people contributed during the formative years. And when we finally made it a business, then we realized, hey, we need all the proper structures in place. We need to pay people if they want to write with us. It's not fair to continuously expect them to write for free, right? So there was a phase where, it was an interest passion project. And then there was a phase where it became a business, and we had to pivot the way we thought about it as well.
So when you first started DollarsAndSense and then writing articles, how did the website then, first gather, traffic? Since, yeah.
Good question. I think we were early to the game, right? And there weren't many personal finance websites like us. Like today, you go online, you see so many different other blogs, websites, platforms, even apps trying to educate us about, even the brands, right? The DBSs of the world trying to educate us about personal finance. I think back then there weren't as many resources, and we were one of the few. And we were one of the few that wrote it as a publication. So we didn't take the perspective of, a one person's perspective. We came at it, as, so we always told ourselves right in a way where, it wasn't just your opinions. Don't give your opinions, because those are blogs, right? And they deserve to be on blogs because people go to blogs to read these people's opinions. We didn't want to be an opinionated publication. We wanted to be a website. We wanted to be an information or educational resource. And people actually maybe value what we were doing, since we weren't giving our perspective, or we were trying to give a balanced view. So there's always pros and cons. Sometimes if you go to blogs, maybe they like something, they will just talk about why you should do it. If they don't like something, they will talk about why you shouldn't do it. We didn't think about it that way. We always thought we should be balanced, right? We should give both sides of the story.
And even till today, right, when you write articles, it's still pretty balanced out. There's always pros and cons to whatever you are.
Yeah, I think like any decisions in life, there will be pros and cons, right? And if you come at it from one person's opinions, he will look at it for what he wants, right? The pros or the cons. But we want to give both sides of the story. And I think until today, that's something that we ourselves practice. And we tell every new writer that joins us, hey, no one wants to read your opinion. At least not right now when you're new. So make sure you're balanced, make sure you have your information, make sure you do the research, put in the effort and create an informative, educational article that people will gain value out of. And then I think in our own channels, we have our LinkedIn today. If we want to share our perspectives, we can do it there.
So in the early days, right, what are some of the challenges that you all face, when trying to grow Dollars and Cents, and how did you overcome it?
I think, there are two early days for me, I guess. One is early days when it wasn't a business, when it was just a passion project. The biggest challenge actually was that we were all, the writers on it, were all having full-time jobs. And we still had to keep this thing alive. We still had to continue working on it. So we had to do it after working hours, on the weekends, spend a huge amount of our free time doing the research, writing, putting it up, posting up on our social channels, telling people about it. So that took up a lot of our time. And thankfully, I wasn't married or had kids, because I can't imagine doing that today. I don't think I can do that. I have no free time actually. So I don't think I could do like another side hustle and then spend that much effort and energy on it. So that was one of the biggest challenges. So it took away a lot of free time, and I think maybe I didn't get to spend a lot of time doing some of the other things I wanted. So I think that was one of the biggest challenge. I think the other biggest challenge or big challenge was the information wasn't readily available. So like I mentioned today, the information is all readily available. The brand owners realize they have to tell everyone everything about their product, and it needs to be consumer friendly, put on their website. The government agencies, they also are doing a great job educating people about the policies, how they go about thinking about it, exactly when they pay your interest rates, for example, CPF and all that. It's all on their website. But back then, I think 2012 or slightly before 2012, the information wasn't as readily available. So sometimes we had to spend a lot of time digging through a lot of online resources, speaking to people, and then trying to verify it, going online and seeing, hey, actually it wasn't this part of their website, it was another part of the website, or actually it was in this information brochure or something like that. So the information wasn't readily available, and sometimes we had to dig through several different websites just to understand one product or one aspect of the policy. And today is so much more widely available. So that was the biggest challenge back then. And then the other big challenge came when we were pivoting into a business, right? It was around 2015. I think why we did it also was because we saw a lot of online dollars going into the finance space. So a lot of the banks, financial institutions, like insurance agencies, insurance companies, stock brokerages, they were all spending advertising dollars, and they wanted to spend more of it online. And then they came to us asking how we could work together, and we had no answer. We never thought about it as a business. So we decided, hey, we should try it. Otherwise, we would never know if it would have succeeded. And I think it's better to try and fail than not try at all, right? And the worst thing that will happen if it fails, we just go back and ask for our old jobs back.
Got it.
So I think that's my perspective. I shouldn't speak for my co-founder, but that's my perspective. Even if we fail, I think I could have found another job. I think I could go back to my old job, even if it fails. And then there also was the challenge, right? How to structure a business. You have to open a bank account. You have to make sure the shareholdings are, properly divided. You have to start getting money or paying money. You have to have your advertising kits, your rate cards, tell advertisers how much it costs. You have to start keeping track of your readership a lot more closely, so you can tell the advertisers how much readers you got in, because they would expect all of these stats as well. So it was crafting the business from day one, actually, on the day that we wanted to do full time in 2015-16, even though we had started in 2012. We had to rethink a lot of things all over again in 2015-16. And then from there, I wouldn't say it's an easier journey, but every day is challenging, but at least we had a starting point, right? And then we continuously built from there. So I think the two early phase challenges.
Okay, maybe just take it back to 2012, 2013, 2014, that period. You said that you guys, were not getting paid, but you're still contributing to the website, no life, right? I'm curious, what is the driving force behind doing this, right, without getting paid?
I think one of it is definitely the keen interest in the topic. I was consuming the topic. I was religiously reading, everything I could get my hands on, books, websites, speaking to people about it. And I wanted to let other people know, you could have this knowledge as well, and I could write about it and they could come to our website. The other thing is kind of fulfillment, seeing, our website grow. People coming in, valuing our work, showing us, that validation, that what you do, people enjoy it, that validation as well. And I guess the third thing was, constantly meeting people because of what you were doing. So we got that access to people, or to meet people, talk to people that we previously probably wouldn't have to, because we were running Dollars&Sense. And that was quite fulfilling, getting to know some of these people as well, especially because we were at such an early stage in my career, right? I wouldn't naturally get to speak to some of these people because they typically wouldn't want to speak to a first jobber anyway. But because we were running a relatively successful online publication that more and more people were getting to know, they wanted to speak to us and they value our opinions. And so I think those three things probably led to us doing it. It was challenging, there were many ups and downs. Sometimes, you didn't have time that week, and then you had promised to upload the article at a certain time, then you needed more time. So there was a lot of operational challenges, but I think we understood our own weaknesses and strengths. We tried to give each other, listeners are not seeing this, but inverted commas, chance to put up the article maybe a little bit later, because we understand, you have your full-time job to think about first. That's where your salary is coming in, and that's how you're maybe funding your family's existence at that point.
Right. And earlier you mentioned that you guys know that you're onto something when people, like companies, start reaching out to you, hey, how can we work together, and stuff like that. So how do you all know that, hey, no, this is something that we can do long term? Or maybe I want to ask, what was the first sponsorship or contract that you all got? That I'm sure that's probably the most significant, because it tells you that, hey, this could be the start of something new. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think you're right. First dollar is always very pivotal, interesting, gives you excitement. The first dollar could lead to more dollars. I honestly don't remember if this example I'm giving you right now was the first one, but I think it was. I remember it was a property developer, and they were holding a property launch, and they wanted us to talk about the launch. And to me and my co-founder, I think we were just like, I'm not sure how much I should charge you. I don't know whether it makes sense for you to work with us. But they were willing to take a chance on a publication that didn't have all of this information, so they knew we didn't have, the infrastructure in place to deliver to them the key metrics. We had to figure it out and then do it, right? So they were willing to work with us. And I think we significantly undervalued what we could have provided them. But I guess at the end of the day, it was win-win, because it gave us the perspective that, hey, we can do this, so we can do more. For them, I guess they got good value out of it, but they also took a chance in their own perspective. So we took the Dollars&Sense approach. And when I say Dollars&Sense approach, we try not to one hard sell, to just stick to one narrative that it's good or it's bad. We try to give a balanced opinion. So that's what we did on this project. I can't remember the exact launch right now. It's quite a long time back. But I remember that, we wanted our story to be balanced. And then we realized, hey, maybe it shouldn't just be one story. Maybe it should be two stories. Why we thought about it was because we were thinking about angles, and we realized, hey, maybe to describe a property launch, you want to talk about not just the launch. You want to talk about the place it's launching in. You want to talk about, let's say, for example, we're living in Bidadari, right? I'm not sure you want people to know where you're living, but I just said it. I wouldn't say the exact address, but we're living in Bidadari, or we're recording in Bidadari. Let's say a condo is coming up. I think people would be interested to know what is around the Bidadari estate. What do they have access to? What amenities they have access to? What are around? What's not around that may be around in a few years because it's in the development pipeline for the government. So that was one article that we realized, could be interesting for people to read about, the estate itself. They want to know about the estate. Then the other article, maybe know a little bit about the property launch. What is going to be available in the property launch, how it's priced against similar properties around the estate, or similar condos around the estate. And I think there were two significantly different articles, and we shouldn't just cram everything into one article. And that's the other thing, actually, I forgot to mention. We want Dollars and Cents to be bite-sized as well. We don't want to have, super long form article you spend hours reading. We want people to be able to read one article, maybe 5 minutes max, or 10 max if you want to really scrutinize every word. But people don't want to spend so much time reading and reading and reading. So we want it to be bite-sized. You just take away a few key points, key learnings, and you move on, I guess, to maybe another article by us or another article by someone else. So we wanted to not cram all the information into one article, right? We wanted to separate it into two articles. And I think from there, having gone through that thought process, we were confident that, we can value add to advertisers' requirements. They may have a requirement, we can value add to it. We can tell them what makes sense, what readers want to read.
So after doing this for a number of years now, what is the process like, whenever a new business approach you and say, hey, let's, work together, and they want to have like their business or whatever being featured. So what's the process like for the businesses who approach you all?
Yeah, I think for us it's quite straightforward. Today we have a rate card. So on the rate card, it just says, how much it is to work on which package that we provide, right? So it could be articles, it could be videos, it could be infographics, it could be events even, right? And ads even on our website. So we have a rate card that just spells all of these things out. But there's another side of it where, if the brand owners, they're not too sure as well, because it's something they're trying out, it's something they're doing for the first time, and they want to have our perspective on it, we can ideate how or what makes sense for the product that you're trying to launch. So let's say, for example, if someone wants to launch a ETF product that not many people have heard of in Singapore, and we have worked on this project. It's a real project that we worked on. Maybe people need to understand what ETFs is in the first place. If they don't already, and not just ETFs, but maybe ETF in the exact sector that you want to launch your product in, maybe the technology sector. Why it makes sense to invest in an ETF, but also why it makes sense to invest in a technology ETF. ETF, I guess, not to bore your readers with more finance knowledge, but you're pooling together people's money, invest in a pool of assets, and then you get great diversification benefits from doing that. And maybe it is a bit more beneficial to do it with a technology ETF, because in the tech space, especially young tech startups, one, maybe you don't have a lot of information about it. Two, maybe some of them won't succeed, or some of them will be multi-baggers. And at this stage, we don't know which one will be which, so we want to invest in an ETF so we don't lose all of our money or potentially gain 20 times our money without knowing why. So the ETF is a good way to get started. Then maybe there'll come a perspective of, hey, maybe we should talk about the tech stocks within each of the ETFs so people get interested in the tech sector. There are companies like Facebook, but there are also companies in China like Alibaba. And these are just the big names. Obviously, there are smaller names as well if we dive down into the ETF product. Some ETFs have hundreds of companies in them, right? And that's where we come in. If it makes sense for us to do it, we will just tell, I think we should do it. And then maybe at the launch phase, people want to know, hey, this ETF product's launching. Maybe we should have more advertisements just hitting people in the few days prior to the launch. So if they haven't already subscribed, they can subscribe, or if they want to find out more, they can go to the articles. Just kind of awareness that this is happening and you should find out about it right now. So maybe ads. That's just one example of what may happen at a project. It could be just rate card driven. So advertisers say, hey, we want this from your rate card, and then that's the price. Or they could tell us, hey, we want to do this, what do you recommend? And then we tell them, having done some of these things in the past, this is what we recommend, and this is how much it costs after that. So there are different ways to do it, and we try to always delight the advertisers, because obviously we want them to keep coming back, because it keeps the lights on for us, but also because readers should know about these things. Readers should know about when before they invest, what they should know, the pros and the cons. And if we are the one writing it, I think, or I'm confident that we'll give a balanced view.
And what if the business that comes knocking on your doors is maybe the product you guys don't believe in? Then what now? Will you all still continue, or just tell them to bye-bye?
Yeah, so I think more and more, I have the perspective that products are created to fulfill a market gap, right? Okay, so obviously we try to differentiate, or we will differentiate a scam. If it's just something very scamish, something we don't really understand ourselves, having read through their website, having spoken to the people, then those are not things we should cover anyway. I don't think those are things anyone should cover, right? For any amount of money. And so we just don't cover those things. But for legitimate products by the biggest institutions in Singapore, DBS, insurance companies, brokerages, if they come out with a product, there has to be a reason. I tell myself, there has to be a reason. There has to be a segment of people they're targeting. There has to be a segment of people that maybe benefits from this product. That's why this product exists, right? And these are big institutions, and they won't just create a product for no reason. So that's the perspective I take, and then I try to learn more about the product. And then I try to tell myself, which group of people does this product make sense for or benefit? And then if the advertiser are willing to listen to our perspective, we'll tell them, hey, look, this product is maybe not meant for everyone. It's meant for this group of people. Sometimes if it's too niche, maybe they themselves don't want to explore the angle. Sometimes they are keenly aware, that their target audience is a bit niche, and maybe we should focus on the audience that they want to target, or is supposed to be targeted, and write just for them. And then they work with us.
All right.
So yeah, I think I try to differentiate between just obvious scams and then products that shouldn't be catered to everyone. It should just be catered to niche people. Maybe people who have a lot of information about a certain product in the first place already, or maybe people who are really right at their infancy of starting to invest. Maybe then from there you realize who the product is meant for.
So from what I'm hearing is that you guys have different so-called packages for different clients. Maybe I think some of the more full-fledged one would be like launching the ETF, where you have multiple articles, and then come to launch date. The article will tell them where to subscribe to the ETF, and maybe even pop up to remind them of the particular ETF launch. That's maybe one. And other type of offer could be just a simple maybe a pop-up, or maybe just one article for the company to share certain messages or products. So these are all the different things that you offer for different clients. Did I get it right?
Okay, maybe just to break it down, what we do offer at DollarsAndSense, right? So the readers come in, they read articles. That's the first thing that we offer, the valuable, or we feel the valuable articles that they get. So what advertisers can do, knowing that we have this target audience, or this audience coming to our website already, is one, sponsor an article. So we write a sponsor article for the advertisers. Two, we can do advertisements. So
just pause a little. When you say sponsor article, so the article would be related to what the client wants, I don't know, could be talk about certain item, product, service.
Yeah.
So that would be a sponsored article.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
So it could be anything, if let's say they sell an ETF, again, the example, it could be a sponsored article about the ETF. It could be a sponsored article about, regular investing, because regular investing and ETF goes very well together. So it doesn't always have to be about that product only. It could be just about a concept that makes sense to that product. But at the end of the day, it's a sponsored article, right? That will have some CTA drivers to whatever the advertiser wants. Mostly a product.
So when you write a sponsored article, would the frame or the structure of the article differ from, let's say, your normal blog post article?
No, or I hope not. So that's what I tell myself. The way we write about sponsor article and non-sponsor articles, pretty similar. We don't try to make an obvious differentiation. So any readers coming to us, when they read a sponsor article, there'll be an obvious disclaimer at the top just saying, this article is sponsored. But when you read the article, we try not to make it feel as though it's an article that is very much different from organic articles that we would have written anyway. Right? So I think over the years, I think a lot of the people who have read our sponsor articles say, it's quite valuable, even though it's sponsored. And I think that's because we try not to make it like a different product from our organic articles. We write in the same way, but it's just that it's sponsored and we have to tell readers that, hey, it is sponsored.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's sponsor articles. The next one is just advertising. So there are two forms of advertising. One is just a site takeover ad. When you click into the website, sometimes you see, your whole screen is taken over by an advertisement. So it's a bit annoying, I get it, but it keeps the bill paid at $0.10. And we try not to infringe upon readers too often. So I think it only happens once a day. So we have that in the background. It only happens once a day, so it's not so annoying. It just annoys you once a day.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully, those people reading us will appreciate it and click on it. Because it's sometimes a valuable product that the ETF launchers is launching. Maybe they want to know about it also. So we hope maybe it's win-win. But I know most of the time it's just annoying. And then there's banners around the website as well. When you read at the end of the article, there's maybe some sponsored banners there. In between the articles, maybe there's a sponsored video. These are just banner ads. It appears through programmatic. Right? So through maybe Google Ads. We have no say in what exactly appears. We have some say in the types of topics. So it's not going to be very scamish, or it's not going to be outside of maybe the financial realm. Anyway, I think Google has that technology where they kind of know what you are interested, what you're reading, and then they retarget you once you are on someone else's website. So it's not really controlled by us, right? It's just a programmatic ad. We work with Google Ads, and then we work with another provider as well to push out these ads. So those are banner ads, video ads. And then we have videos as a sponsored content as well. So we do videos that are sponsored by clients, and we also do organic videos. I think right now maybe sponsored videos might look a little bit more sponsored because our organic videos are a different topic altogether. And then when we do sponsored videos, it's about that product. So maybe it might look a little bit sponsored for people, but from our perspective, we try to still deliver value. We try to still talk about an interesting topic. And sometimes it resonates, yeah.
So for most of the clients that reach out to you, what would be considered a win for them, in terms of the sponsorship article did generate a positive ROI for their business? Are most of them looking more for a positive ROI in terms of dollars and cents, or some could be just branding and awareness? So
yeah,
what are usually their objectives?
So if their objective is branding, then it's a little bit easier for us as well, because it gives us a bit more flexibility in the type of things we can talk about, right? So and then we will just report to them how the article did, right? At the end of the day, this amount of readers read your article, and then it extends not just from that 1 week or 1 month, but it extends
perpetuity, as long as people.
If it's a valuable SEO as well, it extends in perpetuity. If it's about some form of click-throughs that they want, or some form of sign-ups that they want, then we don't have the ability to make a person sign up. But we have to write article in a way that makes them want to click the article or want to click on the link in the article, so they go to the partners or brand's website to learn more about the product. Right. So I think then the clients will be looking at the click-through rate. And after the click-through rate, we can't see it, but on their end, how many of the click-throughs convert ultimately, right? So that will be them who measures that. All we can do, we can tell how many people view it. These are, people who are aware of your brand or your product now. How many people click through? These are people interested to find out a lot more about your products. Click-through is a very, I guess, big thing, right? You wouldn't just click anything you're not really committed to find out more about. So when you click, you're quite interested as well. Then, okay, we can't measure it, but, on the client's end, they can measure maybe the conversion rate.
And I'm sure the click-through rate is something that you can't guarantee the client because you have no idea how many people will click on the article. And also you can't be too salesy in the sense that, it becomes like a sales pitch sponsored content, which will turn off, I think, the other majority of the readers. I think you have to strike a balance down there.
Yeah, I guess that's what we're always trying to do, right? And that's why for every sponsored article that we write, we do have someone editing it to just have another eyeball to make sure, it is in the DollarsAndSense style, you're not being overly salesy, you're not writing wrong information. Just another pair of eyeballs to make sure, nothing wrong is going out.
And who are some of your regular clients? I mean, if you can disclose that, that keeps coming back to, partner with you.
Maybe I shouldn't name them, but I think if you do go on our website, we do name all the sponsors of the individual sponsor articles.
Okay.
So, I mean, you will see all the large banks in Singapore. You will see most of the large insurance companies in Singapore. A lot of the digital brokers that are coming to Singapore, or already in Singapore actually. Maybe even the other brokers also that are already in Singapore before the digital age. They are also trying to pivot into digital and trying to compete with some of these digital brokers right now. So basically, a lot of the brands that you and I are familiar with in the personal finance space, they would be advertisers of ours.
Okay. And also you mentioned SEO earlier. I know you guys are very, I'll say your SEO game is pretty strong, right? Because whenever I search things on Google, finance or personal finance, DollarsAndSense is usually one of the top few, right? So how do you approach SEO then? For those of the listener wondering, so SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, yeah?
Yeah. So we try to write articles first and foremost, right? So we don't just take the perspective of SEO is king and that's all we want to do, right? So first and foremost, we try to write good articles. And then we think about, okay, we need to write good articles that also give us SEO juice in the long run, right? So the effort that we put in is not just lost after the initial readership. We want to also capture SEO. Oh, whoops.
Sorry.
So we also want to capture SEO. So we have different SEO tools that we use to just make sure, on top of the articles that we're writing that are quite timely. So timely articles sometimes don't translate into SEO articles. So timely articles, let's say the government launches a budget 2023, it will just be maybe relevant for 2023. In 2024, it's not going to be relevant anymore. 2025, even less relevant. Then on the other hand, we have articles like, best brokerages in Singapore. This is a list of all the brokerages in Singapore, how much they charge, what their service is, what their commission is, what the markets is that they offer. This is an article that could be very SEO centric because it's relevant in 2023. But in 2024, people also want to know the same thing. But the information will change. So with SEO articles, you need to continuously update these articles for it to remain relevant as well. Right? So you get that perpetual readership. Because if you don't do it, then I guess Google will just devalue your article after a while. Right? And then those that write newer articles or update the articles a little bit more recently, they will go at the top end of the Google rankings. So we try to do that with a lot of the article topics that we want to cover as well. So some of our mainstays, it has to be brokerages. You can just think about, savings accounts. Basically, everything that's in our personal finance lives, that we want to think about opening an account, DollarsAndSense should have an SEO article about it just to remain relevant.
So I know SEO plays a huge part of your website traffic, but are there any other channels that you all are also actively involved in besides SEO?
Yeah. So when you're on Google Analytics for Analytics 4 now, you can see exactly where your traffic is coming from, right? So that's something we pay close attention to, and I think from the latest, this obviously I don't have my analytics in front of me, but I think from our latest one, SEO still has the biggest traffic driver for us. I think over 50%, 60% even of readers come from SEO, right? And then we have smaller segments, our direct So direct, I think, are people who just come to our website quite organically. They want to search Dollars and Cents, or they are directed to Dollars and Cents directly, right? So those are direct. I think it takes up maybe, I think, about 20%. Then we have socials as well. So socials, I think these are mainly from our stronger social channels, which are Facebook and Telegram right now. Obviously, we have other socials as well in Instagram, LinkedIn, X right now. So we have a presence on all of them. I think our strongest two are probably Facebook and Telegram. And then I think those are our three main ones. Yeah, we have others as well, but I think those are three main ones.
Got it. And yeah, speaking of SEO and blog posts, earlier you talk about brokerage accounts, savings accounts. So based on, how many years has it been? 10 years now? What are some of the most popular posts that readers love to read?
Okay, it's a bit difficult to... Maybe I should, after this, go back and see what is our all-time best ranking. I've not done it.
Okay.
All-time best ranking article. But I think for our perspective, we look at it from, a monthly, yearly, maybe, at most, but mostly monthly, weekly perspective. That's how we look at it. So from the weekly perspective, we just see which is our best one. And most of the time, it's going to be something that is either, timely. So maybe a BTO launch, then you write about the BTO, that will be timely. Or something that you thought about that is relatively timely based on, the conversations being discussed in the marketplace right now. So for example, the BTO launch is there. You talk about whether it makes sense to buy BTO or resale. So not really about the launch, but some related topic. So that's on a weekly basis, a very short time scale. You will see the best articles tend to be maybe these. Then you look at it from a monthly perspective, then you see which of your timely articles each week is the best in the month, resonated the most. And I think what you're talking about is actually the yearly perspective, which is the best article within the year. Most of the time it tends to be also quite timely in general. So just to cite an example, in 2020, investments were very hot, right? People were looking at crypto, people were looking at, meme stocks, and then maybe in those years, brokerage will be the most valuable SEO keyword, because that's how people can buy these stocks out there. Right? So I think it's timely from the yearly perspective as well.
So it's like the theme of the year. Like in 2020, the theme is investing in crypto.
Yeah, usually the theme of the year will end up being our best article for the year. Yeah. But now that you said it, I probably go back and see our all-time best. Maybe I'll update you the next time.
That'll be interesting. So what's the theme of the year that you're seeing right now in 2023?
2023, to be honest, I don't think there's one theme of the year. But if I have to say, I think it will be more lifestyle. So I think a lot of people are spending money in 2023. Maybe because they couldn't do it from 2020 to maybe second half 2022, because of the various lockdowns. They couldn't travel, they couldn't do a lot of these things. So we're seeing a lot of travel related keywords, I think, especially in the earlier part of the year, a lot of travel related keywords. I think maybe now in the second half it's died down a little bit, but now that we're in November again, it's spiked up again,
okay.
Right? So I think travel, I wouldn't be surprised if our best performing article this year is going to be travel. Obviously, I will only know that when we do our review in 24. But I mean, I'll update you again.
So once you know, let's say, what is your best performing article in 2023, then what do you do with that information?
Yeah, there's not much we can do, right? Because I think 2024 will probably have a new theme. But what we really can do, if it's an SEO play, we will keep it in our we have an Excel sheet just to explain. I was wondering whether I should explain this to you guys, but okay, how we do it is, so why I mentioned the weekly ones is because, it is very important for us, right? So every week we see which is the best few performing articles. If we feel that, these articles should become the SEO articles that we update every month, not a month, but every quarter or every half a year or every year. So different types of SEO articles also have different layers to it. Whether we should update every quarter, every half year, or every year, once a year kind of thing only. So when we look at the weekly stats, we decide, okay, maybe these articles are the ones we should pay attention to. Then we look at the monthly stats, and then that's where, we add these articles into our Excel sheet. These are articles we want to update going forward when it gets out of date, because it could be relevant SEO plays. And then how it eventually becomes updated is by using what I mentioned, the SEO tools. We see more people starting to want to find out about this topic. Then we realize, hey, we have already written about this topic in the past. Let's update the relevant articles that are SEO plays for us. And it could also be that we write new articles, but let's also update the older relevant articles.
So if that's the case, I'm imagining that as time goes by, there's a lot of articles to update, right? Because you've got more and more articles.
Exactly, right? More and more articles are being added to this Excel sheet, which is why, we can't just update any old article, because all of it are SEO, right? We have to find the right time to update the right SEO article as well.
And how do you know which new articles are the ones that are worth updating in future? You mentioned stats. Is it just based on the number of views?
Yeah, I think for a start, number of views, but to explain that a little bit more, if you see the article being read over a long time frame, because analytics give you that time frame as well, right? You see the article constantly, maybe within your top, maybe 100, 500, whatever it is, articles, then you see, okay, people constantly, every week, they're coming back to this article. It's valuable, they want to find out about this topic, then you realize, okay, this is a topic I should continue covering, and this is the article that I should update if I want to cover this topic.
Right. And also talk a little bit about Facebook. You guys have been on Facebook for I think the longest time, right? Since I think the start of $and I believe you guys already have a Facebook presence.
Yeah.
And of course, clearly you guys didn't take the shortcut to buy likes and followers, which I think a lot of I see companies doing, which is I think just not the right way to do it. So fantastic job there. So one thing to hear, what is your take on the change in Facebook algorithm over the years? I'm sure you have things to share on that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm no expert. Again, I'm going to say I'm not really a Facebook expert, to be honest. But the one clear thing that I've seen is that, you can have X number of followers, that already like your page. But when you post up an article, it doesn't go to that X number anymore, right? It goes to a maybe I shouldn't say very, but it goes to a smaller segment. I don't exactly know how small, because I don't look into these things on a daily basis. But it goes to a small segment of it only. And if you want it to even go to the full segment, maybe you have to start paying for it. And I guess that's why Facebook is such a
big company today.
Big, giant advertising company today, right?
Yeah. So I guess in the early days, when let's say you have, for example, 1,000 followers, right? You publish a post, maybe 80-90% of them will see it.
Possibly, yeah.
But today now it's like maybe single-digit percentage or something along those lines.
I don't know. I hope it's a high single digit, but I don't think so either.
Yeah. I think again, I'm not a Facebook expert, but I think some of the metrics they look at is the engagement on the post, whether people comment, and stuff like that. For Facebook to kind of decide whether to push it to more people. If not, you just, few people click on it or see on it.
Yeah. I mean, you're right? I'm going to reiterate, I'm no Facebook expert, but yeah, the engagement, make sure you don't have any outbound, links in your caption.
Yeah, that's a big one as well. You can't have like a link back to $&Sense website. If not, you will do quite poorly usually.
Correct. I think if you're Facebook, you want people to stay within the Facebook ecosystem. Yeah. You don't want them to click out. Because once you click out, then $&Sense also wants you to click within our website, right? We don't want you to go back to Facebook.
Yeah.
So I guess Facebook don't want that to happen in the first place.
So what are some of your most popular Facebook posts then?
I think very popular Facebook posts tend to be infographics for us, right? So I think on many infographics, we tend to see a lot more likes and shares. We do get that on articles as well, but I think just the regularity, right? Infographics tend to have a lot of these. I think maybe because it's a bit easier to consume as well. You see the infographic within the Facebook platform. Maybe they like it as well. That's why they push it to more people. Not 100% sure about that. But we tend to see more likes, reach, engagements on our infographics.
Does the infographic has to be on a particular theme, like investing, trading, property?
I wouldn't say that. I think any topic, actually. Any topic. I remember one of the ones that really exploded was when we did, the financial life of Singaporean in Singapore. So when you're born, the minute you're born, the government opens the MediSave account for you already, and then they top up $4,000 in there. Then we just go through like each life cycle from 0 years old all the way to when you reach 100 years old.
Wow, that sounds so interesting. I didn't see that one.
Yeah, I'll follow you after this. Yeah, but that's one of the ones that did very well. We see a lot of prominent popular people also sharing it, which is why maybe it goes a little bit further and further.
Okay, then you should definitely repost it now.
Yeah, I think yeah, you're right. I mean, we tend not to repost our graphics too often. Yeah, but maybe you're right. We should.
So speaking of infographics, okay. So yeah, trying to catch my thoughts here. So it's because I know a lot of you are just simply content writers. So do you have someone else to specifically do this infographic for you as well?
Okay, good question, right? So in recent years, especially after COVID, we've gotten the confidence to manage people remotely. And then when we say manage people remotely, we talk about manage people outside of Singapore remotely as well, not just within Singapore. So a lot of the people who help us with the more technical side of creating content are maybe not in Singapore anymore, right? So they could be in the region. Besides being cheaper, we are also more confident actually to manage these people, and they're quite hungry as well. I think they do want to make a name for themselves, right? I think they're hungry and they do want to deliver that quality work and be recognized for it. So our infographics, our videos, our social media graphics, they are all created outside of Singapore right now, but they are created based on content that are created in Singapore. Right, so what I mean by that is that I could write an article, and once I write the article, then it doesn't have to be converted into an infographic by someone in Singapore. Right, it could be converted into infographic by someone, for example, in Malaysia or in Thailand or in Myanmar. It doesn't matter where these people are, as long as they have a relatively good grasp of English. They don't need to have a good grasp of the content finance, but they need to be able to relate it to the graphic, right? So I think that's worked out quite well for us, and they have been able to do it. So it's been going quite well for us to do that. Content creators in Singapore, the technical side of it, to create different versions of the content, like graphics, videos, and all those things outside of Singapore.
Yeah. I mean, speaking to you, you kind of reminded me of, to consider going down the infographic route as well, because I already have so much content. Why not repurpose it into something that, for example, the Facebook algorithm likes, or they like infographic.
Yeah.
So for infographic, right? So the person, the artist, just simply, I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, they just look at the blog post, they see all the information, and then they, on their own discretion, convert it into an infographic.
Okay, I wouldn't say in their own discretion, right? What we have found that was quite valuable is that someone gives them a short briefing. I've done it myself also, maybe a 10-minute briefing on, because they're not in Singapore, they might not understand some of the topics like HDB, CPF, these are things they might not understand. If your listeners are not from Singapore as well, they won't understand even what I'm talking about when I say HDB and CPF. Right? So you have to do more research. Just to cut that research a little bit for them, we give them a briefing. It doesn't have to be long, just 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Just tell them, hey, this is what the article is really trying to say. This is what concepts you need to kind of pay attention to. And you can go even one step further by saying, this is the concept I already have in mind. You can play around with it, if you have a concept in mind already. Or it could work also that, you tell them to think about concept. Then we can brainstorm whether this concept works for what we're trying to say within the article. Yeah.
Oh, that's quite abstract. My mind is just, floating everywhere now. But okay. So I believe right now the posting frequency for your articles on Dollars and Cents is it once per day?
We try to post one new article a day, but we do about 3 to 4 posts. Right? So what I mean by that, maybe to explain, one new article that is fresh. We wrote it, and it's fresh, new article. Then maybe we might update one of these SEO articles. Maybe we might post an infographic. Maybe we might post a video. Right? So we do about 3 to 4 posts a day, but one of it was always going to be fresh and new. Just because, we know there's so many people coming to Dollars and Cents, And sometimes, they find it a bummer to not be able to read something new or just being served an updated version of something old. So we want to always have something new for them every day.
And I'm guessing infographic doesn't really have much SEO benefits, correct me if I'm wrong?
I guess you're right. It probably does not have as much SEO benefits. We do try to eke out as much as possible of the SEO benefits. So what I mean by this is when we post up an infographic on Facebook or on the other social channels, if there's an opportunity, we also insert it within the written article on our website. So at least it exists on our website as well. And perhaps, one day when you search about the topic and then you want to see images,
right? I believe that will
you
pop up
might
there.
see this pop up.
Got it. So for now, I would say that infographics more for social because it's so shareable.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But we do, to eke out as much benefit as possible. I'm not sure how much, but we just put it on our website just so it exists there as well.
Got it. Because I think in business sometimes not every metric is worth tracking because it can be really very daunting. Like you miss the forest, right, by focusing too much on the trees.
Yes.
So maybe let's move towards the topic of content writing because you're right, so many popular articles, some does really well. So how do you feel about competitors or competition? I won't use the word copying your articles, but modeling your articles closely because they say that, hey, DollarsAndSense is writing this article, is doing so well, let's have something similar, right? So how do you feel about that?
I mean, it doesn't feel great to be honest, especially because once you think about, a really original angle and then you see everyone else just start to copy, then, it doesn't feel great, But maybe at the same time, it could feel great because it was a good article worth copying. Just to share with you an interesting story of one thing that happened. I'm sure it happens more often, but this one was very interesting. Somebody from Africa, I can't remember which country right now, but the country maybe I don't even know, but emailed us saying they wish to get payment for writing this article. And when we got that email, we thought it was a scam at first because we have never spoken to anyone in Africa in regards to writing an article for us. Then she was quite adamant, she sent over the article and said this is what she wrote, and she deserves payment because she spent the time working on this article. And then we realized someone was trying to get her to copy one of our articles without really telling her which publication or where they're from. And because the article was modeled on one of our articles, she thought there's a good chance it's us. Right? So she came to us, and unfortunately for her, it wasn't us. But it told me everything I needed to know, right? Someone is going to these cheaper countries, getting someone who doesn't really understand these topics to write about topics by just copying us and not really understanding the topic and putting it up on their platforms.
Do you manage to find out which platform that is?
No, we never managed to. And I guess we probably will never because they never told this person which platform they're from.
Okay.
Well, interesting story. Like, these things are happening. We talked about ChatGPT earlier on. It's become even more easier. You don't really have to go to Africa anymore, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You don't have to even pay that $5 anymore to the African.
So speaking of, so please continue.
Yeah, so I think with ChatGPT, you can just put up the entire article and ask ChatGPT to just remodel it with some of your perspectives that you key in, and then they can write a very similar article, just incorporating some of the new things that you think about.
Have you tried it and see how that turns out?
Increasingly, we are using ChatGPT just to, one, we have to play around with it to find out what it can and cannot do. And two, it helps us think about a topic before we write it. And I think in the future, there's no reason why ChatGPT can't write entire articles.
Yes. I know a lot of people who use it not to create or not to use the content that ChatGPT publishes, but rather use it for, like you say, right, structuring the content, like what goes in the introduction, what's in the body. So they say that it's very useful because ChatGPT can give you a lot of ideas, right? To kind of like provide a skeleton of the article, to say. Yeah. And also I noticed that on your website, you have this tab, right, called Dollars and Cents Explain, that particular tab. So I'm curious, to know why have that tab instead of having those articles be in their respective categories. Like I saw, for example, there's a candlestick one. I can't remember what, but I thought those articles in that tab could be in the other categories that are available. So
Yeah, I
what's
mean
the tab?
that's you spotted a very interesting thing. So why it's in that tab is because sometimes we work with advertisers to push out certain types of content, right? So I'm not trying to shout out to my advertiser on that tab, but if you click on the explains tab, you will see that it's advertised by one of our sponsors for that tab. And that sponsor actually, we brainstorm some ideas with them. We tell them, hey, if you are in this industry, so that advertiser is in the CFD industry, then you might want to explain to people the concepts, right? And then we can focus on writing the concepts organically while you just sponsor the category. So then you get banner messaging, while you don't control the organics, because we are the ones still write the article to explain to people, right? So it's an organic article, but the category of why we took it out and paid more attention to this topic is because of the advertiser.
Got it. Oh,
Yeah.
thanks for sharing. I didn't know that. Yeah, so I was curious. Why that's the case? But now, you've given.
I mean, but you're right. CFD is, it could be under any category, under investing, trading, brokerages. I mean, it could be under any of those categories, but the advertisers paid us to pay a little bit more attention to those topics. So, in our perspective, I hope it's win-win, because we pay a bit more attention. We write a bit more article on explaining concepts, explaining the latest happenings, candlesticks, all these things, and then the CFD provider is the one that pays for our extra attention. And our perspective, we always want readers to read the content for free, which is why we want advertisers to pay for it. Hopefully, get the value out of their advertising, but then the readers gets to read it for free.
Okay, so the entire tab is kind of like sponsored by that client of yours.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and within the article in that tab, it's not a sponsored article, it's just your organic article. Plus that you have some banners, maybe linking back to the client.
Correct. I mean, I hope I'm explaining it clearly, but that's exactly what it is, right?
Okay.
The advertiser sponsors the tab, and the tab allows us to focus more on the topic, and the topics are organically written.
Got it. For those of you listening, you don't understand, just go to Dollars and Cents and you'll see that tab, right? And you know what we're talking about. Yeah. So let's talk about maybe some of your hiring. I guess mainly a lot of your staff are, at least locally, it's content writer. Am I right? Content writer?
Yeah, I mean, most of us are content writers. We have a couple of people who are commercial, so they take care of, making sure we sell to the advertisers and making sure we give them the reports, when done.
Could you expand more on that? Commercial, meaning someone looks for advertisers for you all, or?
Yeah, I think we're quite fortunate that we don't have to really hard sell Dollars and Cents as well. We've established a brand. People do want to work with us. So the commercial person, just engages the brands, making sure, that we are constantly talking to advertisers, so the pipeline doesn't dry up.
Okay.
So then she's the person that I will just say, sells, right? She sells the advertising packages that I explained in our rate card. And then she has another person within the department. So I think it's a small department, right? Two of them right now. The other person just make sure we follow the timeline. Because once you work with advertisers, they want everything in a timeline, and they want to know when it's put out. They want to know when it's shared on social media. They want to know when you're going to give them the report on how many people read the article or viewed the graphic. So you have to cater to what they need as well. So that person does the report for our advertisers. Currently, what we do is every 2 weeks and every 2 months, right? Just so the advertiser have a short time horizon on how it's going, and then they have a longer term picture on at the end of 2 months how it's going for them. After 2 months, was there any SEO traffic? Was there any greater insights that we can get out of writing this article in the first place? From our perspective, this helps us to maybe ignite more conversations about what else can we do together.
Yeah, because there's follow up, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we don't let it just die off, right?
So would it be the case that there's only a limited number of so-called advertisers that can advertise with you at any one point in time, because you only are churning up this number of articles and there's only so many banner and stuff on your website. You can't squeeze in more even if you want to take more. Okay. So if that's the case, then I guess limited supply, then if demand is high, then you can charge more lah. That's my brain
exactly
thinking.
it, right? So we always want to, how we can charge more people read us. Hopefully people listening to this come to our website and read us and continue reading us. So by having greater readership, you can charge more. By having a lot of demand, you can charge more as well. By having good service, so we have our commercial department, they have good service. Sometimes you could have great content, but if you don't service the client well enough, they may not want to advertise with you consistently as well.
True.
Right? So I think having good service is another one. Responsive and good service. So we try to hit all of those things to ensure, it's a win-win and they get what they want out of the advertising collaboration as well.
Okay. Now, swirling back right over to the hiring of content writers, what are some of the key things that you all look for before you hire a content writer?
I think over the years, increasingly, we have realized that, or maybe I should say, I have realized that mindset is a great indicator of whether a person will do well or not. And then maybe the skills, I wouldn't say it's secondary, but you can learn some of the skills, right? If you're a new writer, so you apply for a writing role means you're at least interested in it. Even if you have never done it, you apply for that role means you are interested in it. I guess that's one way to, segment your interest already. So once people apply for these kind of roles, the greatest indicator of whether they will succeed is their mindset, right? Whether they have interest in the topic, whether they can write well, whether they want to learn more about SEO, whether they want to step out of their comfort zone to continuously learn about the topic. It's very mindset driven. You could be a very experienced writer, but if you don't do new things, you might start to lag behind. Right? So I think mindset is quite important. I'm not disregarding skills as well, but I'm just assuming that if you are applying for that role, you have some baseline skills in the first place.
So do you all hire fresh graduate or they have to have some writing experience?
We do hire fresh graduates. We do hire fresh graduates, yes.
Okay, so there's no so-called prejudice down there where earlier you're talking about your ex-boss who, they usually hire experience, but fresh graduate is fine.
Yeah, I think one more thing to realize that in personal finance writing and content creation, there's so many websites out there today, so many publications. And then you extend that to the brands. The brands themselves have their own websites that they want to ensure they're educating people. They will ensure they're educating people not just the topics but their products as well. So the demand for these writers are actually quite high today. And then as a smaller publication or as an independent publication, then we have to vie with some of the biggest brands, some of the deepest pockets. So it's inevitable that sometimes we look at fresh grads, and from there, we have to discern who has the right, mindset, who has the right skill set to be able to join us.
Okay. So right now, what are some of the, I think you mentioned earlier that there's always new problems to be solved. So what are some of the challenges that you all are, facing right now, and how are you, trying to tackle it?
I think there are various challenges. I think you would know that as well. Like running a business, there are various challenges. Is always ongoing. But currently one of the challenges, we do want to put in place, maybe more structure in the company. We are just 7. We have about 10 in Singapore, and maybe 7 in the region. So we don't have a lot of structure right now. Maybe a lot of it are on a trust basis. A lot of things happen, and we trust each other to not abuse certain benefits, or trust each other not to abuse certain things that we already have done in the past. So for one example, just to explain, right, we have this thing where we can work from home if we're not feeling well. We don't have to go and take an MC, right? But if you have more and more people, then it's also logical that maybe someone eventually down the road, I'm not saying anyone in our team today, right, but it's just inevitable that someone down the road in your team will try to abuse this, right? So we are at a stage of thinking, what structures make sense for a small team today, because we are no longer 3-4 men. We have close to maybe 15 people in the region. What makes sense for regional? What makes sense for Singapore? We have to think about some of these structures. At the same time, we don't want to make it too rigid, because we are also still quite small. We don't need so much structure. So we're trying to find balance there. And then on the operational front, I think personally, one of the things that I want to do a little bit more of this year is videos. I think as a publication, we have not done enough videos. And so that's something, I really want to see more of next year. And to solve that problem, we've hired someone who can take more videos for us already. So he has some skills in videography, right? So just capturing the videos. So that means we can go out. So for example, at the Singapore FinTech Festival, we were supporting media partner. So we took some videos, similar to you actually, interviewing some of the interesting entrepreneurs that we saw at the Singapore FinTech Festival. Just spoke to them, captured some videos, put up on our platform to tell their stories on, why they're doing what they do. We try to make it a simple one this time around because it's the first time we're doing a video at the Singapore FinTech Festival. So we asked 5 questions, right? So then they had very snappy, nice answers, and we put it out on the platform. So we're going to do more videos. We hired this guy. He can take videos for us. We have an editor in the region. So that guy can edit the videos for us relatively quickly. And then we can put it out. So the festival ended on, it was from Wednesday to Friday last week. And then we have the videos out within one day. And this week we're putting out more videos as well.
So you earlier mentioned that 10 in Singapore working and 7 in the region. Are they all full-time or some is like, freelance ad hoc?
Most of them are full-time. We do have one part-timer right now, but in general, most of them are full-time.
I guess you probably also have someone to every month have to make sure pay the salaries and the wages, and that also takes time, right? I mean, not so big scale now where it takes a lot of time, but as the number grows, right? Someone has to be in charge of.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Setting a structure that makes sense for our size. So we don't need so much structure, but people still need to be paid, and it's not just 1 or 2 people. It's 15 people need to be paid right now. So we need that HR finance structure to make sure, they get paid as well.
Yeah, it can be a time suck if someone has to do it, like maybe the who is the one doing, but every month you pay like 15, 17 people's salary, you click, it takes quite a while.
So exactly, we've been through that pain, and we've been through just paying 4 people, just the main core team, and then now we're paying 15 people. It's not 500, but it's something that we still need to think about.
So speaking of pain, what are some of the things that you dislike as part of your job? That no choice you have to do, but you dislike doing it?
Okay, I think I'll rewind that question a little bit, right? So when I started Dollars&Sense, I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed doing everything, right? I did it after work hours actually. So I obviously didn't think of it as work. It was my free time I was spending dedicating to this. So people tell me, hey, now that you're working in your own thing, it's great. Going back to an adage that, if you do something you love, then you never work a day in your life. But I kind of disagree with that adage because while I enjoy what I do, it's still work, right? It's still like, sometimes it's a chore. You have to get it done, right? It's a job that you have to do well, right? So I wouldn't say if you do something you love, you never have to work a day in your life. It's more like at least you work at something you enjoy doing, right? But it's still work. Some of the things that I personally find a pain is maybe managing revisions of certain article after clients input their comments. I mean, I don't want to generalize to all clients, so I'm just going to keep it a little bit broad, right? So sometimes clients will have comments on, hey, I wish not to mention this, or hey, I wish to restructure this. We tend to be open to accepting their comments because they did want to pay for the advertisement in the first place. But at the same time, we need to keep to the Dollars&Sense ethos, right? We need to say both sides of the stories. We need to explain the product in full, not leave out certain things. So the pain point comes, when maybe we don't agree on what should be in the article. Then it becomes like a chore. I need to press my point, or I need to push my viewpoints, while at the same time they clearly have their own viewpoints that they disagree with how we're doing it already. So that's one of the major pains I currently am facing. And it's maybe because I am also writing some of the sponsored content articles right now, right? I think in the future maybe there'll be more operational challenges. But this is one that I'm currently doing, and one that I'm currently facing. So in the past, I didn't used to write a lot of sponsored content. I used to write a lot of organic content. Then there was a different pain back then. But currently, my responsibility is doing a little bit of this sponsored content, and this is one of the pains.
So you have your own view, the client has their own view. So how is it then typically resolved?
In the worst case scenario, we just cancel the project. Right?
Oh, you write everything and just cancel. I don't want your money, just take everything back.
Yeah. I mean, we do it. I mean, I don't want to sound like as though I don't care about the sponsored content. We don't want to lose the project because, like you've mentioned, we already spend so much effort on it. But we have done so in the past, where we've written the article, we just cancel it and refunded the client or not charge the client if they haven't paid for it. But this is rare. This is quite rare because a lot of clients, advertisers also understand that, our perspective holds some weight because we've been doing it for such a long time. We understand our readers, even if they might argue we don't understand all readers. Surely we understand our own readers, right? So they do take or put some weight on what we have to say, and then we just have to resolve how to angle it. Maybe use different words to explain different things. Sometimes they want to tone down how aggressive we are on the negatives. I think maybe that's a valid point. Sometimes they also want to tone down how we're saying the product is positive.
It's rare.
Yeah. No, it's not rare.
It's not rare.
Yeah,
okay.
It's not rare because increasingly the marketers are also realizing they shouldn't just be product pushing. They should be educating. That's the first point of their contact with readers. So it's not as rare as you think. Sometimes, to our surprise, because I already thought I am giving both sides of the story, they say, hey, maybe we shouldn't say this because, it feels too hard sell. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, that's a great client.
Yeah. No, a lot of clients are like that. I have to be honest, like a lot of clients are like that nowadays. Increasingly, I have to say, maybe in the last couple of years. Before that, maybe I would agree with you. But more and more, I think even the marketers are realizing maybe we shouldn't hard sell.
Why do you think that's the case?
Okay, one, I think people who work with us always hear us saying it anyway, No one wants to be hard sold anything, right? They may fall for it one time or two times, but it's not a long-term strategy, right? These guys it's a lose-lose. Lose for the clients because anyone who's reading our website and sign up for them would have felt they were hard sold and, a negative experience. On our side, we may lose that reader entirely because, he don't believe in what we're writing anymore. So it's lose-lose. If you don't hard sell and you just explain the product to the person that it most values, then it's win-win, right? And then the person who actually signs up for the product is the right target audience, will benefit the most, and then they'll come back to us and they also have a good experience with the brand, right? So I think more and more advertisers are looking at this perspective. It's also something that we try to say when we explain what we do at DollarsAndSense, so maybe they're buying into it.
And also going back to the editing, the back and forth with the clients, I can imagine that if they keep asking to edit, making amendments, it can be so draining and tiring. So I guess is there like certain cutoff point, let's say maybe maximum of 5, after that we're not going to edit anymore? Is that like agreed from the start? Okay,
I'm trying not to shoot myself in the foot here, but we don't have a maximum amount of edits.
Okay. Hopefully none of them are listening to this.
Yeah. And actually we haven't needed to put a maximum amount of edits because most of the time there's only one round.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the time there's one
and most
round.
of them are quite reasonable.
And most of them are very reasonable. There have been instances, having worked on it for 8, 9, 10 years now, there have been instances where, it's going 3, 4, 5 times already. It's a bit too much. It's a bit tiresome. Not just for me, but I'm expecting even for the person reviewing it on their end, right? It's happened, but most of the time I would say 1, maybe 2 times would be the max.
Then those that are very tiring to work with, are there any similar traits of such companies in certain industry or just random?
I'm trying to think of a similarity, but I think maybe if I have to, it's not a call out, but if I have to pick out one type of client that maybe has more of this, is maybe people who are launching products. And maybe because that's when they have a very straightforward KPI actually. People need to know, sign up. They want that straightforward. It's not so much brand awareness and all. They have a hard target, right? And they're looking at us to be part of the delivery of that hard target. So maybe then they'll be a little bit more picky. On one hand, I can understand why, because they themselves have their hard target they want to reach. So they're extending it to us. So it's not a call out, I just want to say again. But it's just maybe what they're looking for.
They probably have more at stake, because the product will launch. If it flops, then they're very stressed.
Yeah,
so I guess that's where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So maybe let's talk about some of the failures, right? What are some of the failures that you guys have encountered and, what do you learn from it?
Yeah, I think there have been many failures at DollarsAndSense. It's just that, the company doesn't fail, right? So people don't really know that, there has been failures. But there has been many failures at DollarsAndSense over the years. We've tried to launch certain things that didn't pan out. One of the things that, just comes to mind, I wouldn't say a very painful experience, but an experience, maybe that, I think is a failure, is when, we tried to work with a couple of guys who was launching a product for us. So we were working in collaboration with a couple of guys. They pitched to us this product and we thought it was a good fit. So we invested time and money into it. And they probably invested their expertise to build it. And we wanted to launch it on DollarsAndSense and maybe even extend it beyond DollarsAndSense, but as DollarsAndSense as the beta. It got to the point where it was somewhat successful. There were some paying clients, but they decided not to develop the product further, or they decided to leave the brand. They didn't want to work on it anymore, and so we had to hive off the project. Yeah.
So it's like you invested the money, but the one doing the operations decided to say, no, let's not continue.
Yeah. And we didn't want to just entirely take over the product, because I'm not a coder. I'm not technically skilled at writing codes and doing all of those things. So I couldn't manage or build that product anyway. Right. So that therefore we had to work with someone who had the expertise.
Okay.
And for them to leave it to us, I think it was something we couldn't continue, once they leave. Yeah, so we had to shelve the project. Obviously, some of the people that were already paying clients, we had to, go to them and tell them, hey, unfortunately, we've had to shelve this off. I wish it would work. And it was showing some signs of working, but, we're not going to continue it. Yeah.
Why did the coder decide to leave?
I don't really want to make it as a call out again, but I believe it had come a point where maybe they wanted to go out there and work and maybe get regular income.
Okay.
Whereas maybe, I don't blame them, right? I think if it's just not something that you want to pursue, it's not something you want to pursue.
Okay.
And if you recall, coders and people who are technically gifted are being paid a lot, right? So the opportunity cost for these guys are also quite high, right? So if they have computer science background, they're developers, they're software engineers, there's a lot of demand for these people or this talent. Salaries are high, and maybe they didn't see a future of them continuing here, or they wanted regular income more upfront.
Especially in times like this. This probably happened many years ago, but times like this, I think those who are programming knowledge,
assume today would have been even a bigger trade-off. But it was way before COVID. It was a number of years ago, and unfortunately, it didn't work out.
This kind of reminds me that I got into finance, partly because I think back then I was thinking, well, those investment bankers in US, Wall Street, they're making so much money, so that's where the money is to be made. So I studied finance. Apparently, I studied probably near the peak, because now, like the banks and stuff like that, probably they don't make as much back then. So I got caught in the so-called hype, right? and studied because of I thought I could make a lot of money, but no regrets. But that was just something that came to my mind. I think same for I think back then when I was in poly, biomedical was all the hype. It's one of the hardest courses to enter. But then now looking back, biomedical is it's not really the hype that was as crazy back then. And now I guess what we're seeing now is AI and programmers. So I'm curious to see if this will follow a similar trend, right?
Yeah. I think you're right? I mean, there's always going to be different trends, and we just have to stay ahead of the trend sometimes, or be true to what we truly want to do in our career.
So speaking of trends, what are some of the trends that you're seeing in your space right now?
I think you can't avoid AI, you can't avoid algorithm-based investing also. I mean, it's been around for a few years anyway, with the robo-advisors and managed portfolios. I don't know how much AI goes in the background of these products today, but I'm assuming it's going to get more and more advanced. I'm assuming it's going to have more and more AI doing the portfolios. So I think that's one of the trends, possibly.
What about trends in terms of your business model, the publications that you're in?
I think our publication has a very traditional business model. So just to maybe go back to how we make money, right? We make money through sponsored content. So I think we've already talked quite extensively on how we do that and how we get clients. We make money through advertising. So this is the site takeover, the banner ads that you see. Those are in the red card. The third way we make money is through affiliates, right? So we get money every time we refer a product or someone signs up or someone clicks. It depends. There's a lot of different referral models or affiliate models. So we do work with a lot of clients on that. And this is one of the models that, could potentially scale. Remember just now how you said, how much sponsored articles can you have on a website? The answer is not much. For someone coming to a website and seeing just sponsor, after a while, they're not going to come back, right? So we need to have that balance. But for affiliate, there's really no limit to how much money you can rake in, right? Because these articles are constantly just living on your website. When people search, hopefully they land up on these articles, and then the affiliate dollars comes through naturally. It's quite an organic process. You don't have to create a new article for it. People are not bombarded with sponsored messages after that. It's quite an organic process, and if we can grow that part, which is unfortunately the smallest part at Dollars and Cents today, then there's potential to grow revenue.
I'm just thinking out loud here because when you talk about affiliate, I'm thinking like best car workshop in Singapore for Toyota. Then if they can link to the car workshop, then they pay your fee or they go to the workshop. So this something just pop out in my head, right? Because when you mentioned affiliates and car workshops and stuff like that, okay.
I think today most of the affiliates that we work with are still in the finance space, but we do write a lot of car articles actually, and there's no reason why we can't. If Toyota is hearing, there's no reason why we can't work with someone like Toyota.
Yeah, I think anything related to money, right? Something not just finance directly, but when you go to car workshops, still dealing with money. People want to make sure that they don't get scammed at a car workshop. They don't get charged, exorbitant price. So I don't know, platform that is reputable, giving certain recommendation to trusted workshop might be a win-win for the workshop, for Dollars and Cents, and for the client who needs help with their car. I'm just thinking out loud here.
I think you're absolutely right. Actually, like everything that we do in our lives has some element of personal finance, right? Because we spend on these things anyway. Right?
And car is a huge part. Car is so expensive down here in Singapore.
Yeah, cars, especially cars. There's the COE, right? It's so expensive. And I think any part of your life can be personal finance. You spend on the car, you spend on pets, you spend on... And I'm just trying to think of topics outside of the traditional personal finance. You spend on shopping, right? So these are all things that, potentially, it's outside of personal finance, but there are affiliate opportunities actually.
Yeah. And also on the website, I noticed there's a few other things, Dollars and Cents, Malaysia, Dollars and Cents, Hong Kong. Are those expansion plans into the different countries to write about those countries?
Yeah. I think that's okay. A few of the, just to share, right? A few of the things that we hope to achieve. We started Dollars and Cents Malaysia. Just at the tail end of this year, we hope to expand it maybe next year to see more Dollars and Cents Malaysia. That's going regional or going into one other country at least for us. We want to do more videos, like what I've mentioned. That's something I think I want to do more of, or we want to do more of. So hopefully we're going to do that next year. Dollars and Cents Hong Kong was a project that we thought could be another play at going to another country, but right now we're looking at it as just Hong Kong investments or Hong Kong related topics on Dollars and Cents Singapore. Right? It's not something that we're going to expand into Dollars and Cents Hong Kong anytime soon. Different from Dollars and Cents Malaysia. Malaysia, we are actually in Malaysia already, and Malaysia have a different separate website.
Okay.
And then we do have also Dollars and Cents Business. So we started a business website as well. We've been going around for like 3-4 years. We work with OCBC on that one. As you know, what we mentioned, like a category sponsor, so they are the website sponsors.
Oh, okay, another level higher.
Yeah, one level higher, so they sponsored the whole website. And if you think about it, every business have the same challenge of a normal person in Singapore. So like you in your room here, right? You need internet connection. But businesses who operate in the working world, they also need internet, right? For their employees to access internet. You need a place to live. Businesses also need a place to work out of. So they need to rent an office space. They need to renovate their office. So businesses also have a lot of personal finance decisions or business finance decisions. And so that's what the business website is. And it's slightly different from the personal website.
Okay, and I'm guessing on the website also have your typical banners, and then maybe click to OCBC and sign up for something that they can provide a service.
Yeah, I think fortunately they've worked with us for a few years, so they leave it to us to not be too intrusive as well. So hopefully the readers agree it's not too intrusive. But yes, none of the articles again are sponsored. So similar to that model, right? All the articles are organic, and then just there are certain banner ads and messages, footer messages at the end of each article, just to give a little bit of shout out to the advertiser.
Nice. Okay, maybe just one last question before we move on to the closing section. So I'm thinking, what is some of the misconception that people might have about the business that you're in, the publication business?
Okay, maybe I should just talk about me personally. Maybe people think that, it's a very glamorous job, where you are constantly on social, that it's never time to wind down because it's a publication. These are all true, right? I have to be on social channels, the articles are live on our website 24/7. At any point someone can email and say, hey, this information is wrong. Take the article down immediately. At any point someone can say that, and it has happened. I can understand the perspective, because if you are a brand owner and we say something wrong about your brand, you might feel aggrieved. So I can understand those things. But at the same time, as people, not just employees, right? As people, we also need to spend time with our families and just away from our phones. And that's something I try to do on the weekends. I try to leave a few hours just to spend proper time with my wife and kids, not looking at the phone for a few hours. And I just hope that when I come back to the phone, there's not like a major crisis brewing. So that's the one thing I try to do.
Okay, I can imagine that, like coming to your phone and heart attack.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I see like 600, I think I saw 600 messages. I'm like, oh, what happened?
600? Like, what type of messages are those?
I think sometimes, there are, especially, when there's something that comes in on the weekend for work, maybe there's some discussion going on that I'm not part of, unfortunately, because I'm away from the phone, but some discussions already going on. Sometimes it's just a lot of people trying to reach you, trying to text you on different things, maybe. Yeah, but 600 is just an anomaly, actually. Just the largest number I've seen. But I think mostly is not so bad lah. I would just see maybe 40, 50, 100 messages.
So speaking of earlier, you said that it's something you by accident post like wrong information and the person is not happy. So what's the usual resolution? You just edit and then case close. Is that how it usually works?
So the most amicable case is where they say, hey, this information is wrong. But basically what they're saying is everything else in the article is correct. You just got this one thing wrong. And we're like, sorry? Two things then. Is this information that you're saying is wrong available on any public sources? Example, your website. Because if it's not on your website and we say something that, you disagree with, I'm just trying to think of an example right now. In one or two of the instances that I remember, different parts of the person's website or the brand's website had different information. So they hadn't entirely updated their own website. And then in another instance, they wanted the correct information, but their own website put the
Wrong information.
maybe not wrong, but old information, right? So we are not wrong. And then the third scenario could be that, okay, we were wrong, right? And then we just say, okay, we change it. So it could be any one of those instances. So we can't be too quick to just say, sorry, we'll change it. Sometimes we shouldn't change it because that information is not available, right? Or the information that's given to the public is the older one or the wrong one, right? Then you should know as a brand owner yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they have to update their own information and then you update your information accordingly.
Correct. Because then it brings in another problem, right? Then people read, if we just change it, then people read our website and their website, then they say, we are wrong because the brand owner website says a different number.
Yeah, and that one probably holds more weight because it's the original source.
Correct, yeah. So there are different things that could happen. So we can't be too trigger happy to just change it. So we have to understand why, and maybe that's why there's so many messages. We have to understand why we got it wrong. Either we were careless, or it could be the brand's website had some problems in the first place.
Okay. I know I said that was the last question, but I got to take back my words. So this kind of like trigger, because this shows how important research is, right? And earlier you're talking about, as you write an article, a lot of time goes into research, structuring the article and stuff like that. So what's the breakdown? Let's say you write a typical article. How many % of time goes to the research and whatnot?
I think different people will have different time allocated, maybe because of how much they already know of the topic. And then different topics also will have different research, right? So the easiest kind would probably be something that you're already familiar with and not too abstract a topic. Then you can write it quite fast, just to give you a gauge of how long I take. Some quick articles could take about 2 hours to just finish up. But then there are articles where at the other end of the spectrum, mostly it's sponsored articles because a lot more research need to be in the article to kind of understand the product, especially if it's a new product. Also, you have to spend a lot more time researching, and in those cases, that's the other extreme end. You could take a whole day, maybe half of it spent on research, 3-4 hours, and then half of it spent on writing the articles, about 3-4 hours as well, and then you spend a whole day on the article.
Would there be cases like maybe this person is more familiar in investing, let him handle the investment sponsorship, and this one maybe property this person will do, or it's just like everybody will do everything and anything?
Okay, right now how we currently structured it is the more experienced writers are writing the sponsored content. So one of them is me. And since I've written about a lot of finance related topics since 2012, I kind of understand most financial topics. Then maybe I have to do research to just find out a little bit more about that specific thing that I want to talk about in the article. Then there could be writers that are a little bit less experienced, right? So maybe they've been writing more recently. We try to give them things that they are more comfortable with. Maybe like you mentioned, maybe they are more comfortable with investing. Maybe they're more comfortable with doing research about policy related things. Maybe they're more comfortable with maybe some lifestyle related articles like traveling, with a personal finance angle, with a finance angle at least, because we're dollars and cents. So we do try to give people articles that they're more familiar with. And just to share with you, the process at Dollars and Cents as well is the writers have to pitch articles that they want to write, the organic articles at least. So they pitch their idea, and if it's approved or agreed that that's a good article idea by, I wouldn't say unanimous, but there's a team of like 4 or 5 of us who just go in the editorial meeting for this ideation. If we think it's a good idea, then he gets to write his idea, right? And so hopefully he would have less research to do because he's already interested, have done some research on the topic before pitching. Then there are other instances where something comes up within his area of expertise or her area of expertise. For example, the government launch maybe a change to the CPF benefits when you buy a BTO. Maybe you get more grants. So the guy is our housing/policy writer, has to write the topic. Right? So even though it's a new thing, they have to write the topic, and then maybe a little bit more research because it's something new as well.
So speaking of each writer have to submit their own idea to see if it gets approved. What is then the criteria to approve an idea for an article?
There's no criteria, right? It's more like a pitch. You give us the angle, the topic, and then you tell us why you think you should be writing it for dollars and cents. It's kind of a pitch. You are pitching your ideas to us. And if we like the pitch, then, and I say we like the pitch, maybe just the rest of us, it could be the rest of us, in general, just like the pitch, we think it's sensible, then we will just say, okay, I think we can write the article.
So it's based on the subjectivity discretion here?
Yeah, there's a little bit of subjectivity, but most of the time, if you're in the meeting, to be honest, it's not so subjective. When someone pitched to you a really good, strong idea, it's not so subjective. You're just like, I think you're onto something. And if someone pitched to you a really weak idea, you're like, I don't think anyone's going to read that.
Okay.
So while I can understand it sounds quite vague and subjective, but if you're actually sitting in the meetings, right, with us, you will instantly realize that, someone is pitching a good idea or someone's pitching something that's a bit iffy.
And what's the reason for this process where the writers are the one pitching their own ideas instead of, the panel of people giving out ideas and then you write this article?
Yeah, I think there's two ways to think about it, right? One, if you are a writer / a journalist, you should be thinking about ideas on your own, things that you want to write about on your own, right? If you are just being given topics to write, then maybe you are more of a marketer then. Or you could be seen as more of a marketer. Not instantly, but you could be seen as more of a marketer, right? Because you're not thinking about the ideas, you're just being fed some SEO related topics. You could just be a marketer actually. What's the difference between you and a marketer? Right, then you have to kind of explain. Maybe you do that desktop research or you do more research. There's some justification that has to be going into why you differentiate yourself from a marketer. But in general, I think personally, you could be a marketer. But if you come to the table with your own idea, with your own angle, and it's strong enough, it makes you one more, you take more ownership over that idea. And two, you're coming with some originality, and that definitely means you're a writer / journalist.
So if that's the case, then actually SEO is actually kind of secondary order. One who pitched the idea has to be aware of the SEO implications as well.
Yeah, so I guess there are multiple orders, you're right? It could be like it could come with experience. After writing for a while, you understand or appreciate SEO. Then your ideas take into account SEO already. Or then it comes the other way around, right? Where we see people writing or we see people reading more of a certain topic, and then that is like an SEO keyword that we want to rank for. And then unfortunately, if your pitch is not strong enough, maybe we will assign you that SEO keyword and maybe brainstorm the idea to write.
Okay. So as promised, let's move on to the closing section. Right?
All right.
Okay. So if you have the entire day all to yourself, right, with zero responsibilities, right? So how would you spend that day?
I feel like my answer would be very different if you asked me this about 5 years ago. If I had the entire day all to myself, I would, dedicate some time to sports. I would say maybe some time in the gym, maybe some time playing badminton or football, some time dedicated to sport, or even running, some time dedicated to keeping active. Then I would spend some time with my family. So my kids, I enjoy spending time with my kids, but I don't think I can spend the whole day with them. So maybe some hours, some hours spending time with the kids. And I also wish maybe if I had the whole day, I could watch some of my favorite TV shows, because I feel like I have missed out on so many TV shows. And I wish I could catch up on some of them. I'm a big Star Wars fan. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fans, and a lot of the series are coming out, and I realize people are talking about it, and sometimes I haven't watched it. So I have to close my ears around them.
And I think this is a very interesting question. I've not asked any of the guests previously, but what's the kindest thing that someone has done for you?
Shucks. I'm really at a loss for word.
Okay, so
I'm not trying to say Singaporeans are not kind, but I just can't think of the kindest thing. Maybe I would go back to my time in the Commandos, where I think I was maybe struggling with carrying a certain load during a certain mission. And I say mission with inverted commas for those of you listening, because it's just fake missions lah. I think there was a point where, I couldn't manage to carry one of the things. Maybe because I wasn't having a great day, I can't remember what it was. And I just needed some help. And I think someone, even though they themselves are carrying heavy loads already, they came forward and, helped me carry. I can't remember what it was again, but they just helped me carry that load, and I could complete the mission without much hiccups, without having to load up on the tunnel, as we call it in the army.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, right? I realized that the people that remember or the strongest memories that we have are usually when we are in the shittiest of the shittiest outcome, and then a kind soul help us. Wow, we're going to remember that kind soul for the rest of our life, right? So
yeah.
So there are certain moments in life, right, where if you help that person, you're going to be remembered for life. You can do 99% of the things that you'll never be remembered for, but when the person is really,
at their lowest,
yeah, and you help,
yeah,
you will be remembered for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you come across as a very logical person, right, to me. So I want to ask you this next question, right? So, do you think there is life after death, and why?
Wow. Okay, I didn't expect to be hit with this question. And I don't think my family even agrees with me, but I don't think that's life after death. I think you should make the most of your current life, not trying to win some special spot somewhere else after life. I think you should, whatever you want to achieve, whatever you want to do good, whatever you want to accomplish, you should do it in this life. And there's just, I may be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. So you should just achieve, accomplish, do whatever you want in this life. Make sure you make the most of it. Don't leave anything to an afterlife. If it's there, that's maybe the extra perk we get to enjoy, I guess. But if it's not there, imagine people who are saying there's no afterlife are right. Then you should make the most of this life then.
Right. And yeah, before we end, where can the audience, find or connect with you? So clearly Dollars and Cents, right, is the website that we've been talking so much about. But what about your personal Facebook and stuff? Do you want to be found, or would you rather just stay anonymous, kind of anonymous?
I think I enjoy talking to people actually. So I'm happy to be found on LinkedIn. You can just search Dinesh Dayani.
Okay, how do you spell that?
Dinesh Dayani, and you can find me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect, happy to speak to you about any topics. Doesn't have to be like personal finance. I talk about personal finance all the time already.
Okay, so would there be multiple Dinesh Dayani on LinkedIn, or you're just probably one of the easy one to?
I hope not. I hope there are not that many. I think I have a relatively unique name, especially in Singapore. So at least if there are multiple, you just search the one in Singapore, then it should be me lah.
I really like your name because you have the both names starts with D. Dinesh Dayani. It's like, Rainer can be what's the other one? R. Rainer, raining, whatever, so D and D, it really goes well together. So yeah, thank you so much for your time, Dinesh. I really appreciate you being here on the show. When I speak to you and we talk about Commandos, it really triggers a lot of happy memories, more good than bad memories. So that's a good thing, yeah. And I appreciate you, sharing the SEO, right? How you guys structure the website, how you guys write the content, hire the writers, the SEO technicalities was really insightful for me.
Yeah. I hope it's valuable. I don't think I'm an expert in any of these things, but these are just some of the things that I share. And I guess last word is that, when I was invited on the podcast, you say you want to interview interesting people. So I hope I lived up to it. But
definitely.
Even not, I hope you guys forgive me. Yeah.
All is good. Thank you so much, Dinesh.
All right. Thank you.